The time,
Keep going, sorry.
the time now is 7:31. I would like to call the October 16th business meeting to order. Roll call, Ruth?
Member Carter.
Here.
Member Patton.
Here.
Member Fisher is here. Vice President Rollins Gay.
Here.
I'm sorry.
Here.
I haven't looked up yet since I walked in. This is us.
We're on this
okay.
side.
Okay. We ready to move on now? Additions, are there any additions, corrections, or modifications to this agenda?
The only thing is, I'd like to make a short announcement on behalf of John Dimmitt and his wife Angie. For those of you who don't know, Board President John Dimmitt had a stroke last week. We're happy to report that his condition is stable and he's doing very well. He's looking forward to a full recovery. His family appreciates your thoughts and prayers, but is asking for no visitors at this time. The Board of Education, the entire school district, joins me in sending Mr. Dimmitt our best wishes for a full and speedy recovery.
Thank you, Don. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, say nay. Good. Okay, there is no call for executive session after this current meeting. It is time for citizen statements. So if you would like to bring up or get a goldenrod, Lori has them, and she'll bring them up to me. The first person would be Joe Wemel.
And as Joe's coming up, we'd like to acknowledge Stephen Thompson, who's running our cameras.
Yeah, welcome
today.
back.
Thank you,
Stephen.
Stephen.
Yeah, welcome back.
And behind him will be Deborah Bodeny. Badon, okay.
All right, so we ready?
Yes, we are.
I am Joe Wiemeltz, the principal of Urbana Middle School. I'm also a parent. I reside at 2506 North Stricker Lane, in Urbana. I'm going to read my statement tonight. So, as a parent, educator, and community member, I'm both concerned and optimistic about the direction of UMS and our district. One key concern is with how our schools, teachers, district leaders, and most importantly, our students have been depicted over the past several weeks in the news media, across the community, and within our district, within our own district. As I continue to hear the negative and sometimes divisive rhetoric related to serving our students, I fear that this is only furthering us from being able to move forward collectively for the well-being of our children. I do believe that some things are getting better at UMS and will get better over time if we remain committed to doing what is right for kids and following the law, particularly as it relates to Senate Bill 100. At the same time, I do acknowledge that we have a lot of work to do to improve the school, and we have many areas that need to be greatly improved. There are valid concerns with some aspects of our building at UMS. I know there are staff members, teachers, students, and families that are stressed, that are concerned about the well-being of our school and our students. There are also staff, teachers, students, and families who are optimistic and very positive. There are areas improving, and I believe that we can become the school that we all envision. However, right now it's just very difficult to move us forward in light of this broader context of divisiveness and negativity that's surrounding our school. I'm concerned with what this negative context has done and is doing to our school, our staff, our families, and kids. Some of the things that students are saying to me about the negativity is concerning. I want to remind us why we have even gone down the path of this type of change to begin with. The outcomes at UMS and across the district have never been excellent, especially for kids of color and students from low-income backgrounds. I say this as a 15-year district employee. The idea that USD 116 was fully compliant with Senate Bill 100, for example, before this year is not true. Our approach over the past several years has led to hundreds, if not thousands, of kids of color being pushed out of our school system and underperforming. We've had the ongoing issue of students of color being overrepresented in discipline, data, and underrepresented in academic excellence. We need to acknowledge this as a reality. We need to acknowledge that UMS has never been an amazing school for every single kid and family. The need for this change has always been there, and now that we're working towards making real transformative change, in not just words but in practice, we have to continue. Thus, I'm here tonight to ask the Board of Education to help lead us forward. as well as to caution you from the negative rhetoric, the rumors, and some of the misinformation that is circulating. I ask that the Urbana community, including the Board of Education and a variety of stakeholders, refrain from assigning blame and pointing fingers. As a district, we have worked extremely hard to recruit talented staff of color to better reflect the community and the students we serve. Right now, I'm concerned that folks are being persuaded by negative misinformation, speculation, and rumors that are not helping us progress. This has a negative impact on the trust and stability of our district. One of my biggest concerns right now that I'm hearing within my building and across the community is racialized in nature and the misinformation that you may be receiving, that we may be hearing. Now that we've hired more Black and Latino staff members, to be specific, our hiring practices are now being questioned. Why is it that when we do hire more people of color in our district, which is a part of our district mission and even the negotiated contract and board policy, speculations of whether or not these newest hires are even qualified for their positions arise? I'm asking the Board of Education to stay committed to our mission and helping us move forward, which I believe you do and will continue to do. We have to be committed to identifying solutions to improve the outcomes and experiences for our kids. It's easy to step back and point fingers, but that doesn't allow us to achieve our goals. We continue to need strong leadership at every level, myself included, that's willing to lean in even when it's uncomfortable and embrace that discomfort to help cultivate a better future for our most precious and sacred resources, our kids. UMS has been struggling for a while, as I've said. This is not new, and I believe with your support and confidence in our leadership and in our teachers and in our community, we can make this district an amazing place, UMS an amazing place. I believe in what we're doing, and I know that we will continue to modify and adjust our plan as we go, but we know that that happens in every school every year. I'm almost done. Our district and community leaders must be able and willing to commit in action for the positive transformation we want for our kids. We know unequivocally that this is done by being intentional with our recruitment and retention practices, as well as our academic, behavior, and social emotional programming. The decision and efforts to do right by students and families cannot be reduced to procedural mistakes, faulty judgments, bad decisions, etc. We have acknowledged the mistakes that have been made. Dr. Owen has acknowledged the mistakes that have been made. Yet the core responsibility for public education is to guarantee student achievement and preparation for global competitiveness by fostering educational excellence and ensuring equal access to education. I don't believe we've gone away from this. These changes are some of the many ways in which we intend to dismantle the system of inequity. Are we where we want to be yet? No. Have we had challenges with implementation this year? Yes. Are there people that are frustrated and optimistic? Yes. Is the ongoing negativity in the community hurting the advancement and improvement of our school and the well-being of our students and staff? Yes. Ultimately, my biggest ask is for those wanting to make meaningful transformation to be a part of our solution. How can we come together and lead our school forward where all students can excel, particularly our students of color and students across all demographics? We need the community, the Board of Education, to rally behind all of us, administration, teachers, students, families, and work to achieve the district vision and mission. The decision to address you tonight was not easy, but in conversation with other district administrators, teachers, and staff, I felt it was necessary. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next person up. And behind will be Andrea Kirkland.
Good evening. My name is Deborah Bedoni. I reside at 715 West Vermont Avenue. I'm a parent and community member. I'm here to express my concerns about the situation at Urbana Middle School. My son is a 6th grader at UMS, and he's had a very good start to the school year. I credit this to the dedicated teachers in 6th grade, particularly on Team Stellar, a supportive cross-country team and coach, and an excellent band program. He's enjoyed being in a bigger school with more options, more activities, and one where he can feel independent. As a parent, I've been very impressed with my interactions with my son's teachers, as well as interactions and communications with the administrators at UMS. I truly appreciate the effort and care that Dr. Wiemel is putting into making UMS a better place. A few weeks ago, I spent the morning with a fellow parent touring Urbana Middle School. We were not led around by anyone from the school, but instead we walked the halls and visited the classrooms. This was an eye-opening experience for me. I wanted to see firsthand what is really going on in my child's school, and I saw a lot. I saw teachers working very hard to help their students learn the material. I saw teachers dealing with difficult students who were disrupting the class and resulting in the entire class coming to a standstill until the situation was resolved. I talked to teachers who were truly frustrated with the situation at UMS. I talked to teachers who feel that this school is unsafe and that central office isn't listening. I saw classrooms where there were so many students squished into a classroom that even if a teacher wanted to move a child who was being disruptive or who needed more space, there wasn't room. I saw classrooms where 2 to 3 students were causing an entire class not to be able to do anything. I saw students in the hallway with their phones blaring music as they danced and shouted around. I saw students disrespecting teachers and staff who were trying to resolve conflicts. I walked away from this visit feeling like UMS is a place with so many dedicated teachers, staff, and administrators who are working very hard, but who have their hands full and do not always feel supported by the people in central office who are making the big decisions. Sadly, I learned just in the past week that one of the teachers we had observed in 8th grade social studies had chosen to leave UMS for a job in a different state. When I saw her teach, I could tell that she was connecting with the students and that she cared. But from what I've been told, she was one of the many who felt unsupported by the school district. My fear for UMS is that the dedicated teachers will leave because they are tired of the chaos, tired of the disruptions, and tired of not being listened to by central office. We were told last year that the exodus of teachers from UMS was normal. It was due to being in a transient community. I strongly disagree. I talked to teachers who left, friends talked to teachers who were leaving, and many of these teachers left because they didn't trust that a plan was in place that would be successful and supportive for the coming year. They wanted out. Curiously, my son's math teacher left this past Friday. He now has a long-term sub until a teacher can be hired. And to hire someone after the school year starts is extremely difficult, even if in a normal situation, but even more difficult with all the negative press the school has received this year. The one positive of all the chaos is the parents across Urbana are coming together because they want a change. We are a group of people who want excellent education in Urbana. We want our children to feel safe at school, and we want central office to start listening to the problems and complaints. I'm tired of being told we have to be patient, that we need to give this time, and that this is normal. I want those working at central office to get in the buildings and offer their help. Please start showing your support to the people who work with our children each and every day. I encourage all the school board members to walk the halls of UMS and visit the classrooms. Do this on your own without someone showing you around. Talk with the teachers, and they want to be heard. They are smart, educated, caring people who have dedicated their lives to teaching, but they won't stay if they don't have the support they need. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Andrea? And then behind Andrea will be Matthew and Dude.
Good evening. My name is Andrea Kirkland. I'm a counselor at UMS, where I've worked for 20 years. I'm also a USD 116 parent with a son who's a freshman at the high school and another who is a 5th grader at Thomas Paine. We all know that this has been a time of immense change and adjustment throughout our district. As a member of a support services team, I'm thrilled with the addition of so many capable, dedicated staff members to our team. The addition of these staff members should allow us to address the mental health and behavioral needs of many more students than we've ever been able to before. In addition to a social worker, counselor, and student relations supervisor at each grade level, we've added a clinical professional, 2 student engagement advocates, and a restorative practice facilitator. This level of support's been needed for a long time, and I'm thrilled that we've added these additional support staff. That being said, we are far from a system that's running smoothly. The training and restorative practices and TCI that was promised to happen over the summer didn't happen. No systems were put into place to address the void created by eliminating the dean positions. Contrary to what's believed by some, the deans did far more than just dole out consequences. They supervised students before and after school, ran lunches, and worked with families and staff to address students who had repeated issues with tardies and skipping classes. These issues didn't go away with the elimination of the dean positions. At the beginning of the school year, staff was simply told that those responsibilities would now fall to the administrative team. An administrative team who are almost without exception new to the building and had little to no knowledge of systems that had been in place in the past to deal with these issues. It became apparent within the first few days of school that this was an impossible task for the grade level administrators who were responsible not only for these new duties, but also all discipline matters for the grade level of anywhere from 320 to 350 students, not to mention all of their previous duties. The roles of our new support staff had never been clearly defined or assigned, so they were the ones who began to fill in the gaps. While the initial idea of this plan seemed to be that these staff members would provide support to students individually and in groups, participate in family outreach, and push into classes for support and to teach SEL lessons, our days as support staff members look drastically different. Behavioral needs necessitate many support staff members responding to calls to classrooms to remove students, along with supervising lunches, gathering tardy students and attempting to get them to class, and hunting down students who have left class without permission. Yesterday, a teacher, desperate for help with a difficult class, reached out to our 7th grade support services team for additional support after he had attempted behavior contracts, restorative circles, parent contacts, and push-in support. He mentioned some of the students with whom he is having the most difficulty, all who've been identified to receive individualized supports. One of our support staff members apologized to him, saying, "Due to safety issues, lack of subs, and lunch duty, we have been unable to engage them with the frequency we would like." Yesterday, there were uncovered sub positions in our building, so numerous support staff members and special education staff were pulled from their duties to cover these classes. These new positions are vital to the success of our new system, yet they were being used to sub uncovered classrooms and serve as hallway, classroom, and lunchroom supervisors. Had this system been implemented with time for careful planning, our building would not be in the state of chaos it is in now. Yesterday, 8 weeks into the school year, we were finally given a plan for addressing tardies and students roaming the building during classes. I'm assuming administration will be taking on the task of keeping track of tardies and assigning stated consequences, but again, I question how this is sustainable due to the large number of other responsibilities they have. I rarely see any of the administration in their office doing things that are expected of them, such as contacting parents, conducting evaluations, or responding to emails. Instead, they were in the hallways dealing with disruptive students and conflicts. Again, support team members are being asked to assist in being available to give tardy students admits to every class period. Even with this system now loosely in place, students are still roaming the hallways well into class time. During 7th period today, I walked through the 7th grade hallways to the office, and I encountered 14 7th grade students out of class without permission and with seemingly no intent to return to class anytime soon. I saw our social worker and our clinical professional attempting to herd students back to class. This is how we are spending our majority of our time and our expertise. We have restorative practice facilitators who are being asked to supervise the locker rooms. We have students who have missed counseling appointments at the health center because the staff assigned to walk them there are engaged in supervision activities. We have no concrete plan to address the issues in the lunchroom or the rampant use of cell phones in the classroom. We have close to 40 new staff members who are expected to hold either regular check-in circles during advisory classes or engage in restorative circles during their assigned duties, and their training in this area has been minimal at best. Communication continues to be a significant concern across grade level teams and building-wide. Despite being the largest department in the building, the support services team has no department head. There's little to no consistency with our team regarding processes and communications at the grade or building level. Members of the support team spend most days spinning their wheels, going from one crisis to another, and not sure if anything they're doing is having any real impact. This system was designed to be proactive instead of reactive, and because of the issues mentioned above, it is anything but. Had this system been implemented with regard to the very issues staff, students, parents and community members raised concerns about last spring, we would likely find our building and our district in a very different circumstances. I have every hope that we will find our footing and that the system will eventually be what we envisioned it to be. But I can't help continue to wonder why, despite every warning that this is what would happen if we insisted on pushing through the initiative without adequate planning and training, it was still done. 2 weeks ago, President Dimon stated, in the next few weeks, when order and equilibrium are restored to our schools, we can move from this crisis mentality to ensuring that all aspects of operating an outstanding school system receive proper attention. We're still waiting. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next person, Matthew.
Hi. Sorry, I leaned
That's
in and then I failed to follow your precise instruction here for the cough. Yes, my name is Matthew Ando. I live on Michigan Avenue in Urbana. I have one kid in the school, in the high school, and I have another kid who's graduated. They both went all the way through the school district. And the first thing I want to say because I don't do this kind of thing often enough, is to thank all of you, because I know many of you have been doing this for a long time, and I really appreciate the effort. And let me just say about the school district that your commitment to excellence and to sort of all kinds of improvements throughout the time that I've been here is one of the things that makes me most proud and happy to call Urbana home. I really, really appreciate everything that you've done for me and for my children. I know that this is a difficult time, and I just wanted to sort of say that I'm very impressed overall that you have shown over and over again that you can take on difficult, innovative, and important projects and succeed. I was myself pretty skeptical about that you could pull off something like the dual language program when it was originally proposed. It sounded just like way too complicated for an ordinary little school district like this one to carry off. And I have to say that my friends whose kids are involved in that program are really, really happy with it. I know that there are discipline issues now that people are kind of worried about, but listening to these descriptions, it reminds me of going I used to volunteer in my kids' classes back when they were younger, and they would let me do that. And so I remember going to a second grade class and just being amazed that the teacher was able to sort of conduct a class in the midst of this just complete chaos just all the time. I found it exhausting to be there for 20 minutes, whatever the length of the period was, and this was apparently completely normal, and she did it every day. I just observed it once a month. So, and that was, my son is a sophomore in college now, or junior in college now, so that must have been 15, 16 years ago, and I guess I think that a certain amount, real chaos in the classroom is an important challenge for our teachers and for our students and for us parents, but I don't know how new it is. Another example, that same child, I learned years after he'd graduated from the middle school that it was a source of great frustration for him that when he was in the middle school, in any given class, a significant number of the kids in the class would just not be with the program. And so while I'm sure that's a serious problem and that we should all be worried about it, I'm not sure how new it is. Now, I realize that the discipline, implementation of this discipline policy has gone really poorly. I just want to sort of comment that, complicated organizations like schools, it feels to me, don't just get sort of, I don't know what the right word is to use, but monotonically better. They get better, they get a little bit worse. And there have definitely been changes throughout my time here. There have been some that I've been happy with and some that I've been pretty unhappy with in the school district. But I have absolutely no doubt that over the long time that I've been in the school district, things have gotten better. I really do feel that the schools are better places than they were when my kids started out in them 15, 20 years ago. And the discipline problem discipline policy is taking on an extraordinarily important and difficult challenge. It's very courageous of you to take it on, and I commend you for taking it on. And I realize that things aren't going nearly as well as any of us had hoped, but I hope that you have the I hope that you stick to it, because I think that the goals were admirable, and I think that the goals were admirable. The research on which it was based makes sense to me, and I believe that the problems that you have now are solvable, and I hope that you will solve them.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to make a statement and get a goldenrod sheet from Lori? Okay. Seeing that there's none, we have no commendations or recognitions this evening. So right now, we're going to have the administrative reports, and Don and Carol, would you please start off?
Sure. So, Carol, I can do this unless you want to. First up is our annual auditor's report. Heather Powell from BKD will present the board the kind of overall summary of the financial audit. And Lori, will you get the lights?
Okay, so I think I gave everybody hard copies of everything
Yes.
I'm going to go through tonight. I won't be going through all of it in detail, so just to hit on a few highlights. I'm just going to start with some of the kind of big picture financial information, which are on the slides, and you also have copies at your tables as well. This first slide here, let's see if I can do this right, is kind of the fund balance trends over the last several years. This is on the modified accrual basis, which is different from the cash basis that you're used to seeing. So if they look a little different, and I apologize, it's very hard to read up there, but that's something that I think we talk about each year, that these financial statements are on a little bit of a different basis than what you're used to seeing month to month. Nothing that really stuck out too much. Any kind of negative fluctuations, I think, really are due to timing, and we'll kind of get to those in a little bit when we talk about some of the revenue and expense items here on the next couple of slides. The good news here, the educational fund expenditures, when compared actual to budget, all of them have favorable variances, which means that the expenditures were less than the budget in all cases in all of these areas. So obviously no concerns there. The next one is pretty much all revenue. The only thing that this does not include would be the debt service fund and the capital projects funds, but otherwise this would include all of the revenue. For those of you that may remember last year, we always end up with kind of a timing difference as far as when property taxes are received. We go out 60 days and bring back into this fiscal year anything that you would have received through August 31st of 2018, and we do that every year. So if there's a timing difference on how much you get in that 60 days, it really causes some big swings, especially based on how Carol budgets as well. So that's really when it shows I guess a $2 million negative variance. Really, that's just because last year we brought back about 6.8 million, and this year we only brought back about 4.7 million. So it's really just a timing. You're still getting all the tax you were due. There's no concerns there. It's just kind of the difference in the presentation and how we show it. And then the federal sources, that's just some timing of, you don't really get reimbursed for grant money until you spend it. So just some timing on when you spend it and when you get the money back. So again, no concerns, just a little difference there. This last slide, this is just the working cash fund, cash balance. We just always show this is directly tied to the interfund loans that you have to the other funds. They were down about 100,000 this year, so the working cash balance is up about 100,000. Has more. So that's it for the slides. Unless anyone has any questions, just a few other things I wanted to touch on. I mentioned every year you do get the big financial statement here that I passed out. You do get an adverse opinion on that. We've talked about that numerous times before. That's just due to you not adopting GASB 34, which was a long, long time ago, and a decision was made at that point, but nothing has changed. So it's consistent with the opinion you receive every year. We only had one new kind of accounting adoption this year, and that was just some disclosure information around post-employment benefits. So there's a disclosure on page 24, but it isn't too much change from what it was before. It's really the teacher's insurance fund, and it's been in there in some shape or form all along, but we kind of broke it out into its own footnote this year and added a little bit more information. So that was adopted this year. We also issued an adult ed report, which I did not give you copies of, but that's due to the state, and that will be provided to them. And then we will also upload the annual financial report, which is required to be filed with Illinois State Board of Education. That'll be done tomorrow after the board approves this tonight. So we will fulfill all of those requirements. As far as any other kind of required communications, we had no past adjustments, so we had no adjustments that we decided we didn't need to record. And then all of the ones that were recorded were related to this kind of cash to accrual conversion. So there were no adjustments proposed or made as a result of what would be considered an error. As far as the management letter, we had no material weaknesses and no significant deficiencies, no single audit findings, and no new deficiencies this year. So we still issue a management letter. It's similar to what you've seen in the past. There were no new ones, so I wasn't going to go through that in detail. But I would be happy to answer any questions about any of these reports that you've had, if anyone has any questions.
Yeah, actually, I do. Thank you. So, I mean, your last statement was that there was no new deficiencies this year. That probably negates the question I was going to ask, because I thought, my memory's now not always good from year to year, but there were some deficiencies that, as you mentioned, you explain every year we have them because of
Yes.
our internal controls and the way
Yes.
our office is set up, and those I
Correct.
recognize. But there was 3 others that I don't remember from years past, and maybe one related to information technology personnel, and one related to anti-fraud program controls, and one related to disaster recovery plans. So those were deficiencies that we've had mentioned
Well,
years past?
Well, 2 things. One, the technology personnel is what we consider deficiency. It's a kind of a segregation of duties thing, and that has been there for, I don't remember how many years, but that has been the case. The other ones, if you see where it kind of splits here and calls this other matters, those are just things that we kind of give you for your information. Those are not considered deficiencies.
Okay, all right, I got
But
it.
I do believe those other ones have been there, to be honest.
The information technology personnel is related to separation of duties. I mean, it's
Yes.
really the same issue.
Yes, it's, yeah.
That's
it's
been there
similar.
since I was assistant
Okay,
superintendent.
all right, well,
Yeah,
thank you.
and then the
I
other
obviously
ones
had
are
that
just
wrong.
kind of other matters, not anything, it's just things we wanted to make you aware of, but not anything that we would consider deficiency.
Okay, thank you. And I have 2 other questions. One is, I noticed, again, and I know this has been true before, that there was some statements of economic interest that had not been filed by either board members or administrators or employees,
They were
and
just filed late.
okay, so they are now on file?
Yes, so they're all filed. They were
Okay.
just anywhere from 1 to 13 days late, I think.
Okay, yeah. Only okay, I'm glad to hear that. I was going to say, I remember one year, I was one of those who indicated had not filed, and I knew I had because I had my
Yeah,
slip, and when
yeah.
I called the county clerk, they said, oh, I'm sorry, our mistake. So I just wanted to make
Yes,
it
we
clear
did
that sometimes
double-check
it
their
is.
website. You can check their website now, and they're all
Right.
on there. So they are all filed. They're due May
Great.
1st. There were some that were the 2nd through like the 13th.
Gotcha. Okay, so, and my last question is a broader question. It seemed, you have a lot of good material here, and I am not a financial person whatsoever. Carol can attest to that. It seemed like there were some new formatting kinds of things that looked like it had some good information. So what I was looking for, maybe this is not under the purview of an audit, but, so you can tell me whether this is there and I just didn't see it. Personnel, of course, is our largest expenditure, as in any business. And what I was trying to look in our audit was, and our district, like most school districts, has multiple sources of funding and, coming from various sources. And, this past year, we've had lots of sources of funding and many hires, as you've heard people attest to. So what I was looking for is, does the audit provide any assurance that we are using various funding lines appropriately when we're hiring personnel? I mean, is that identified anywhere in the audit?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
The only requirement we have, if you have enough federal funding,
Uh-huh.
then we have some specific audit requirements around federal funding and how those monies are spent.
Okay.
Otherwise,
That's
we
the
wouldn't
only.
necessarily have anything that would probably speak
Point
to
to.
your point, yes.
Okay, only with regards to federal funding, okay.
So those questions actually, Peggy, are covered when the Illinois State Board of Education comes in and does programmatic audits.
Oh, okay.
And we report any adverse findings of those whenever we get them to the board, but we haven't had an adverse finding on those in a long time, so.
And
Significant.
And ISB does that on a regular basis?
ISB does that on a very regular basis, yes.
Like annually kind of thing?
We have a room called the Green Room, which is for
Uh-huh.
the auditors,
Okay.
and they come in on a very regular basis. In
Probably
fact,
every other year. They're supposed to be here more than that, but it's
yeah,
about every other
it's-
year.
Probably every other year,
It's
okay.
about every other year since, for the last 2 years, since
Okay.
ISB has been cut in staff.
Mhm.
But there have been years where we've had 2 different auditors come in and do programmatic audits.
Okay, that's good to know, thank you. Thanks.
You're welcome. Anything else?
I
Any
will
more?
add one thing, just regarding the anti-fraud question, is
Yeah.
we have just put into
Oh, wait,
place
sorry, I forgot to mention that.
Yeah.
this year, as a matter of fact. So we're trying to address some of these, but that's one that we put in our annual trainings or awareness with our employees. So
Yeah.
it actually got sent out to employees last week, I believe.
Oh,
We just
okay.
finished that,
Yes,
so it's
next
just an
year that won't
awareness.
show up, yeah.
Yeah,
So
okay,
hopefully next year it won't be there.
okay, good, well, thank you.
Thank you. Any more, board? Okay, Don, continue.
Thank you, Heather. Up next, we have our administrative reports for school improvement plans, and we're going to start with Yankee Ridge. So Brian Anderson and his school improvement team will come up. I think, are you doing a quick computer switch?
We're going to switch our computers.
Okay.
Can I go get this one? I didn't get one of those. Okay, thank you. I have this one, they didn't get this out early, so I just wanted to see it.
Have anything yet? Hold on. Excellent, thanks. All right. Okay, good evening. I would like to start with introductions of the school improvement team. We have Stephanie Alvis, who teaches 4th grade. Allison Reif is an interventionist at Yankee Ridge. Natalie Barrett's our new full-time assistant principal. Heather Payne is our social worker. And Lupe Ricconi, our director of bilingual programs, is here to support us as well. I was thinking back to it, and ironically, I think we spent one of our planning sessions when we were creating our continuous improvement plan in this very room back in May. So here we are now to share with you some of our updates with our current plan. We have 2 goals in our school improvement plan this school year, one of which is a social emotional goal. All students will develop self-management skills and feel connected to the school community so that they can feel empowered to manage their emotions and make positive choices. The plan for this is that it will lead to a reduction of office discipline referrals for all students and a reduction in disparities among different ethnicities. When you look at our school data for SWIS, which tracks our office discipline referrals, African American students are more likely to receive referrals at Yankee Ridge, as are students that are multiracial. And we believe this goal will help reduce those disparities. We also have a literacy goal. It's similar to our goal from last year. Reading achievement will improve for all students, especially for those students that begin the year reading below the grade level expectation. Students performing below grade level will increase achievement at a rate that is higher than the average rate of improvement. And this goal will help reduce the disparity in reading achievement for our African American students as well. So let's look at how we're going to achieve this goal, or these goals. For our social emotional goal, well, we'll start actually with our progress, excuse me. Last year, our office discipline referrals increased significantly from the prior year. So we had more discipline referrals than what we've had at Yankee Ridge in a long time last year. That's what we're coming off of. We're also coming off of larger class sizes, and they're much smaller this year, and we had some extra challenges with the construction last year, and now we're enjoying our nice building. Regarding ethnicity last year, we did have some success with the risk referral index that we were looking to reduce those disparities with our African American students. You can see that previously in 2016-17, the risk ratio for African American students, or the likelihood that they would receive a discipline referral if you were African American, was 3.3, which is way too high. Last year we were able to reduce it to 2.21, but that's still not where we want it to be. And you can see that on the screen the reminder that we're aiming for a risk referral rate of 1.0. Anything higher than that means that there's a higher likelihood that that group of students will receive discipline referrals. And the number of African American students that receive referrals is definitely disproportionate to the number of students that we have that are African American in comparison to other ethnicities. So also last year, we had 9 staff members that voluntarily participated in a book study on conscious discipline. That was a program that we introduced, and we wanted to start with a gradual introduction. Implementation of any program takes time, and we thought it'd be good to have a few staff members that willingly wanted to participate in conscious discipline. And it was led by Beth Mears, one of our instructional coaches, and I assisted her. They were very committed. And all teachers last year taught a second step in the classroom, which certainly helps reduce or increase social emotional intelligence. So for this year, we have started a training with a voluntary training with many staff members that are working to learn about being a circle keeper. Elaine Spungen is training some of our teachers as well as other teachers in the district. In fact, on a Friday night, last Friday, from 4 to 8 p.m., there were 28 total different district staff members there, but there were 5 or 6 Yankee Ridge staff members that were learning about being a circle trainer from Elaine Spungen. So we think that, I know that that will help too, being able to talk to students about how to restore their relationships when they're in conflict. We're also going to broaden our study of conscious discipline. This year we expanded it out building-wide, so went from voluntary small book study to every staff member will be receiving a book very soon, and we've already started looking at the chapters and discussing the various concepts. We're going to provide a morning meeting, or we are providing a morning meeting in every classroom, and we're highlighting the student achievement in a community assembly that Mrs. Barretz will tell you more about in a moment or two. We're going to continue to adapt our PBIS practices. We've had, in my opinion, some very positive PBIS meetings where we've looked at what our current practices and past practices have been and how we need to adapt to best meet the needs of our students. So I think we've had some good conversations, and we're getting some positive momentum with PBIS. We also have been able to move Heather Payne, our social worker, off of what we call the Tier 1 PBIS team into the Tier 2 so that she can concentrate her efforts with providing more interventions. She'll tell us more about that in a minute as well. And we have a few parent workshops and family events that we're offering throughout the year. One is on Saturday, actually, for some of our French dual language students, and that'll be the second Saturday event that we've had for those families. We also have some evening events. In fact, Thursday night, the PTA, they're having a potluck at Yankee Ridge. So we'll have a good turnout just to have fun and get to know our community a little bit better. We've worked to discuss the district PBIS T-chart. The T-chart is what distinguishes what is office managed behavior and what is classroom managed behavior. So we've had a lot of discussions about that. Those discussions actually started back in April and May of last school year, and they're continuing this year because anytime you put any new system in place, you have to monitor how it's going and work with the people implementing it, the teachers. So we're working together on that. And all classrooms have a chill spot for students because we all sometimes get a little frustrated at moments and we need to take a break, as do students. So we're ensuring that every student has a chill spot, and we're often redirecting students when they're starting to feel that anxiety or that tension or whatever it is that's on their mind. They can go use the chill spot.
Good afternoon, or good evening, I should say. I just wanted to talk a little bit more about some of the connections that we are building with our students through specific and targeted actions. So one thing that we are implementing this year is a consistent morning meeting time. Every classroom throughout the building has a morning meeting between 8:30 and 8:45 about where they are building community in their classrooms, to start the day off in a positive way, to discuss social emotional learning skills, as well as to sometimes discuss conflicts that have occurred the day before or throughout the week. So every classroom in our school is starting with that morning meeting, and it's a consistent time. So, which is great because any of us can walk down the hallway at that time and pop in and help participate and join a class morning discussion. So that's happening Monday through Thursdays. On Fridays, we're doing a school-wide community assembly. So it's our school-wide community morning meeting, essentially. And during that time, we have a variety of things that we are implementing. We have a Yankee Ridge secret handshake that all the students know how to do, and so they greet each other that morning with that handshake. We've spent a couple of those Fridays discussing mindfulness practices, positive messages, challenging one another to do acts of kindness to each other throughout the day. We also use this time as an opportunity to reinforce our PBIS expectations and celebrate students. So we've had multiple classrooms perform for the school, and it's kind of set a trend. So we are getting teachers coming to us and saying that they have students that want to perform something in front of the school. We had a 5th grade class perform a dance with the dance and drama teacher that they had learned. We had another class perform a chant that they do in the hallways as they're getting ready to go transition from class to another location. We've had another class recite a morning affirmation that they say every day in their room. So this is becoming a trend, and we're really excited about this. We have a video here of our secret handshake, some kindergartners doing it during our morning assembly.
We will not be showing it for the viewers at home because it is a secret.
Okay, and then one thing, we had a PBIS meeting recently, a week or two ago, and we were looking at some data, and we pulled up our data on our referrals by day of week. And one thing that was noted was that on Fridays, we've had a significant decrease in the number of referrals that we've had compared to Monday through Thursday. And it was mentioned by a staff member. I wonder if that's connected to our Friday assemblies, starting the day off in that positive way. I would like to say that this does have a strong correlation, so we're definitely looking at ways to incorporate more of that positive messaging throughout the rest of the week.
Thank you, Natalie. I'm Heather Payne, the school social worker. I know I love starting my Fridays in the gym for our whole school assembly, so I really enjoy it. So to layer on the social emotional learning, we're zeroing in on having more social academic instructional groups this year. So we have some kind of set groups of emotional management, self-regulation skills, also those really important social skills, and the executive functioning skills of paying attention and knowing how to agree to disagree, or organizational skills. Using our systematic screener in the next month or so, we'll be targeting both internalizers and externalizers for some of those social academic instructional groups. The lunch bunch groups, we've had a large volume of teachers volunteer lunches to spend with specifically internalizers. That's one of the interventions that we think works best with the students that are not showing their behavior as much as keeping it all inside. So last year we had 13 staff members volunteer lunches to spend with students, and this year we have 8 so far that have volunteered in this first round. So I know that once the successes are heard about these lunch times that teachers are spending with kiddos, that we'll have more teachers volunteer as well. And we're not asking the teachers during the lunch bunches to do any specific curriculum. It's just specifically about getting to know the kids, making them feel heard, making them feel safe and welcome. Equine therapy mini horses, we're so very lucky to have the mini visits, miniature therapy horses come once a week to Yankee Ridge. I know Deb is a former Urbana teacher, special ed teacher, and I also know she only goes to the library once a year, and she comes to Yankee Ridge every week for us. So we are so very lucky to have her, and we have a number of students that are participating in that. Also, the music therapy groups, we have a board-certified music therapist who volunteers her time once a week, again, to come in to work with some small groups doing music therapy, and she's just amazing, and I've learned a whole lot from her. So we've seen some pretty dramatic impact last year, and we're just getting those started this year. So I'll also talk about this year's progress in relation to our office discipline referrals. This graph is a little bit small, but you can see the orange there is our office discipline referrals from last year. This is, I think, the last four years of office discipline referrals. So the purple that you can see in the front of August, September, and October, that is us this year. And like I said, orange was last year, blue was 2016-17, and green is 2015-16. So you can see the dramatic impact. We know that we have had some changes, and we're so thankful to have lower class sizes. I think that's really made a dramatic impact on our office discipline referrals. Also, we have Ms. Bretz, who's wonderful and has been really great at working with the kids and building relationships coming into our building for the first year. And we have a very strong student engagement advocate who's with us only 2 days a week. If we had him for the entire week, or a staff member of his caliber for the entire week, we would really make more progress towards these school improvement plan goals.
Okay. Now we'll take a look at our literacy goal and our progress from last year. So the good news is that students make literacy progress at Yankee Ridge. They grow as readers. I have some evidence here. 98% of African American students made reading progress. That means they gained one reading level in what's called the Fontes and Pinnell Bass Assessment. Now, I'm very proud of that fact, but I also want to acknowledge that one level is not enough. Typically, depending on the grade, it can range, the expectation could be 3 levels. In kindergarten, it's 4, and first grade, it's 6. Thank you. Allison keeps the levels straight for me. So 1's not enough, but my point is that we're making progress. We have some work to do in some areas, and we're aware of that, and we're going to continue to enhance our practices to help target the students so that they're reading at grade level. Again, that progress last year, 51% of a targeted group of African American students, it's 29 students out of 57 that were in 1st through 5th grade, and that were with us from the beginning of the year till the end of the year, they reached their BAS grade level expectation. That's 51%. Our goal was 80%. Didn't make it. It's not for lack of trying, but we're going to continue to hone in on those practices. And thanks large part to Allison and Kelsey Outlaw, some of those students, and the classroom teachers, some of those students gained 4 or 5 levels in 1 year. So it's really hard to span that gap or to reduce that gap, but it's not impossible. This year's plan, continue to provide balanced literacy instruction in every classroom, every single day. That's something we've been doing for many years, but that's where it starts, in the classroom. Review student progress at least monthly during the teacher RTI meetings. That's something that we're starting in the meetings Thursday as well as into November. And then continue to develop our practice of instructing guided reading. I think that's the most powerful tool out of the balanced literacy instructional practices that we use. In my opinion, guided reading, it's not, you can't do it all with guided reading, but it is going to get you the most reward for your efforts. And we're excited to begin implementing Words Their Way. That's a spelling program that the district has adopted. And most teachers, I think actually all teachers have embraced that, and they're starting to learn that program. So that should help with our spelling fluency, which transfers into reading comprehension as well as writing. And provide intervention support for as many students that qualify as possible. Right now, that's 64 students that we're able to provide intervention support for. And then we have a plan to incorporate volunteers as much as possible. You know, our resources are limited in a school, and yet we have that attitude that we're going to do whatever it takes. So we're looking for volunteers, and Allison's going to tell you a little bit more about what we're doing with our volunteers and how we're using not only community members, but also our own children.
Good evening. So at Yankee Ridge, we have noticed that there are a large amount of students that need just extra practice at reading. Research does show that just any amount of minutes that they are reading every day will really help increase their reading skills. So last year, I had two teachers that worked together, one being Stephanie Alves, and noticed that there was a first grade student who just needed more practice at reading. So she was paired up with a fourth grader who would come down every afternoon for 10 minutes and help that student with her reading homework. They would read the poem, they would read the story that I gave her, and intervention and practice her sight words. And this student gained 6 levels in a year. And I know it's because every day she had a buddy who would come and read with her and supported her and really made her focus for 10 to 15 minutes on reading and gave her encouragement and gave her confidence. And I just saw how powerful that was for that student. And so I thought it'd be great if we could have more of that. And so this year I am working with teachers to try and set up reading tutors, the first graders working with some fourth graders, and hopefully some second graders who are working with some fifth graders. So I have a document that I'm working in, just trying to set up as many of those tutors as possible within the students, and just really kind of giving the older students the power to understand that you are role models and that younger students look up to you, and just having the buddy system of being able to help each other and support each other and encourage each other in reading. We are also going to use parent volunteers. I've been working with our parent volunteer coordinator to have some parents who will come in and read with students, as well as our ARAC tutors from the university.
Yeah, we do have a new wonderful volunteer coordinator, Abigail. She's new to us, and she fills that 10-hour-a-week position, and she's doing a great job at helping us recruit volunteers. So I've heard that I'll be coming back in spring to give you an update on our progress. So therefore, let me tell you where we're at right now with our reading levels. The way you read this chart, if you focus first on the circle, you can see that the students in green are reading at grade level. The ones that are in that beige yellow, they're 1 BAS level, not 1 grade level, 1 BAS level below. And the students that are 2 BAS levels or more below are in the red. You can see that this is for first grade, so we have 38 students that are on grade level and 27 that are either slightly or more than slightly below grade level. We've also broken it down by the ethnicity in this box here, and I want to point out that I'm not proud of this fact, but we're aware of it, as I've said already, that our African American students, we're going to work on increasing their reading achievement, because you'll see for all the grade levels, in fact, we have more African American students that struggle with reading, and we want to improve in that area, especially as they continue into the middle school and the high school. It starts at the elementary levels. Second grade, you can see 17 students that are on grade level, 3 that are 1 level below, and 20 that are 2 or more levels below. Moving quickly, third grade, 27 students are on grade level, 6 1 level below, 23 that are more than 2 levels below. Fourth grade, 25 at grade level, 6 that are 1 level below, and 10 that are more than 2 or more levels below. And then fifth grade, 30 students on grade level, 1 that's 1 level below, and 25 that are 2 or more levels below. And we also want to highlight our French dual language program that we're excited to have. So Lupe is going to share more about that.
So Dr. Anderson asked me to join him today just to kind of give a little bit of an update of the French dual language program so far. So we do have 2 classrooms at this time. Currently the kindergarten classroom is at 13. when we have 16 students in the first grade classroom. We did go with a 50-50 model for the kindergarten and first grade classrooms. So some general feedback that we've gotten from parents and families is that students are using French more at home. In both language backgrounds, not just in English homes, but also in Francophone homes. As you know, many of our Francophone homes, this is a second language. French is a second language. Lingala is very frequently one of the first languages in the home. So what we're hearing a lot from our Francophone parents is that they are feeling such a connection and such a bond with their children that their children are engaging more with them in French. We've had multiple parents say, we just feel, so much of that that love between us now, that they're just using words with us, in French now. As well as, the school is just so accessible. If anyone has really gone in on a school day, from the minute you walk in the door, having the signage. When Dr. Anderson and Ms. Bretz, really decided to order signage from the building, everything in that building makes you feel welcome, as a French speaker. All of the signage is in French, adding increased staffing there that is French, some even Lingala, bilingual, trilingual staff. Having someone answer the phone that can immediately address you in French or Lingala. Having Abigail, who also is a mentor coordinator, who is a former Urbana grad, who also speaks French as well as a former French student as well. So all of these have really opened the door even wider for our families to give them that access. That they had some at King, but this has definitely widened that door even more for them. Our goals for this upcoming year are to continue to provide more PD for our staff. As always, that's a continuing process to continue to provide PD for staff through in and out of district support. Continue to grow materials. I'm always asked what a challenge is. What's a main challenge that you have with a bilingual program? It's always finding high quality, authentic materials. Through community resources and through reaching out to other districts. That's definitely something that, we're working collectively with other districts to kind of try to build a pool of that as well. Partnerships with community and families, as well as recruitment and retention for French bilingual and ESL staff. We know that our family will keep growing. We know that the population keeps growing. Historically, we've seen that, so trying to make sure that we're being prepared for that as well. So we did want to share with you a little bit of what the program looks like because the kids have been working very hard, as well as if you can find the mini Dr. Anderson in the video as well.
Yeah, my son is in the video, that's right. We'll see what we can do with the audio. They're going to sing us a song in French, so I hope we can pick it up with.
Their morning community song.
Bonjour mes amis, bonjour mes amis, bonjour mes amis, bonjour mes amis. Qu'est-ce qu'on va faire? Qu'est-ce qu'on va faire? On va lire, on va lire, on va écrire, on va écrire, on va manger, on va manger, on va jouer.
Do you have any questions for us?
Board. All I want to say is that the psychosocial emotional is fantastic. I just want to know, what are you using as mindfulness? Is it focusing on a picture, or you putting some type of relaxation at that age group? I'm really wondering because
We have a variety of programs we use in websites. Is it Yo Mind? Yo Mind. Yo Mind is
Okay,
the one that
I'm
really
familiar.
appeals to the kids. Class Dojo as well. Thank you.
So you're doing really great on the interventions.
Thank you.
And It does work. It just takes time,
It
so I
does take time.
appreciate that. Thank you.
I have a quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
Don't know if it's working. I may have asked you this already. Do you feel now that the construction's over and everything's cleaned up and done, that that's really contributed to the lowering of the behavioral problems that you had from last year?
I think it has, yes. It's one less stress factor, one less disruption to the school day. And with the completion of the construction came the increased classes and the lower class sizes. So that has a real effect as well.
Right. Well, I love the wraparound services that the dual language program is providing. I mean, when I went to the open house, I loved seeing all the signage, and I loved reading the little bios of the teachers. But it's so nice that you have office staff and you have parent, coordinators, volunteers, all that stuff who are also bilingual, because then your program doesn't exist in a vacuum. So
Right.
I mean, I'm thrilled with that, and I think that's going to lead to so much growth for the kids, just being new to the language, but also maybe a lot of these families new to the community. It's just such a great stepping stone for them to get really immersed in our district. So thank you for all of that work. I'm so excited to hear more reports about how the dual language program works out. So
Yeah,
thanks.
we're excited too. It's our pleasure. Thank you.
I just have, just one question.
Sure.
Well,
Yes.
just a thanks for implementing so many innovative approaches to community building and literacy. I mean, clearly many of them are working, but mostly you're just trying new things, which is, good. So good to see that, you're able to use your creative, juices and so on. You answered one question I had about the new space and its impact, so thanks for mentioning that. And the other one really has to do with the French dual language. I was just wondering if there have been any surprises with, maybe it's not fair to compare it to the Spanish dual language, because maybe, it's apples and oranges, I don't know, but, especially since you're using a 50-50 model versus the 90-10 model. I mean, are there any surprises about outcomes in what kids their experience, in the program compared to the Spanish dual language, the approach we take with that?
Well, I think at this point, it's a little early
Uh-huh.
to say with absolute certainty, to give a fair assessment. I will say that going to the Spanish language shift was, for our Spanish language speakers, was really not that much of a shift at the kindergarten level, because they were already at the kindergarten level getting 90% of their day in Spanish, whereas for our French program, they were primarily really only getting about 45 minutes of their day in French to going to half a day.
Okay.
So I think we're still kind of in the early stages of really seeing long-term what the overall effects are going to be. I think so far what we're seeing is a lot of engagement from the children, from the parents, a lot of desire to see it continue, a lot of passion from the kids and from the families to see it grow, to see the growth. There's a lot of really just motivation to
Yeah.
keep going and keep moving forward.
Oh, good. Well, thank you for your leadership on that. You probably told us this at an earlier meeting, but is that the rationale for why we're using a 50-50 model with French versus the 90-10 model that we use with Spanish? Because of where the children came from, because of what their
There's a
past...
variety of factors that went into play with that decision, but that was one. One of them was family input. And what we did have a stakeholders meeting as far as what the families were interested in. Part of it was that this was a third language that we were adding in, the Lingala, the French, and the English. So it was a variety of factors.
Okay. Thank you to you all very much.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thanks. Okay.
Up next is Leal and Spencer Landsman.
Can I pass?
Nope.
If I'd known I was going to go after that, I wouldn't.
And you,
Good evening. We don't have any mini ponies at Leal, but we have had a fox visiting lately and leaving us presents every morning that the kids are like, so interesting. So I you know, I'm a little taken aback to follow that presentation. As I was listening to, you know, the Yankee Ridge presentation, I was thinking about something both in terms of our building, the middle school, all of the buildings, is you heard the real school improvement plan in the fact of the dedicated staff and the things that they are doing in Yankee Ridge, in my building, at the middle school, in spite of all the problems. That's why Urbana schools continue to improve and get better, is we have really competent, committed, dedicated people who'll be there on Saturdays, be there in the evenings, work through the summer, to do the things that are necessary to help our kids improve. I find in my building that, you know, if I show the staff the data, the information, that if you do X and such, or if we're involved in something, and they can see that it works, they're behind it. They get behind it and they do whatever is necessary for that. So on that note, let's go along. This is my 14th time to present the school improvement plan for Leal. It sure does not seem like it's been that long. The time has gone by, so that must mean that I was having fun, right? So I wanted to start out with the Leal Belief Statement, which was developed several years ago by joint staff and stakeholders. And at Leal School, we believe in the dignity of everyone and the right of equality of opportunity. We are committed to dismantling inequitable practices, so success is not predictable by student identity and all students can reach personal greatness. And we value the strengths that come with difference and treasure the positive contributions each unique individual brings to our community. And we did a lot of cribbing from the district mission statement, as you can tell in there, but they were things that were important to everybody, other stakeholders, community members, staff, parents. Key strengths at Leal: we are a PBS Gold recognition level. There are not many below I-80, south of I-80, who fall into that category. We have a really peaceful learning environment. Obviously, our Spanish dual language program is a real strength. We have very strong parent and community involvement, and we're the site of a 21st Century Learning Communities Splash Junior after-school program. And they all went fishing today at Colbert Park in Savoy with Jim McCune, our PE teacher. He was the best thing we did was steal him from Champaign. Areas for continued growth at Leal. Our students reading at grade level, particularly students of color. Our 2017-18 BAS scores, that's the Faunus and Pinnell assessment that Brian Anderson was talking about. We had 75% of our students at or above spring benchmark. To start this year, I quickly, since I found out I was presenting last Thursday, I quickly did a very rough manual compilation, because I can't figure out how to get a report to run to show me a school-wide thing. But after the fall benchmark scoring, we have 61% of students at or above their fall reading level. Sounds great, okay? But as the Yankee Ridge people said, I mean, those levels increase through the year, and those benchmarks increase through the year. And to get students to keep pace with that is the task. Our other area for continued growth is in the area of mastery of basic math facts. We've been using Eureka Math for a couple of years now, and teachers are finding that it is having its intended purpose of getting students to think deeper about mathematics problems, how to solve them, how to explain their answers, how to use different problem-solving strategies to solve those problems. But we are still finding that a lack of knowledge of basic math facts gets in the way of students being able to apply those other strategies as easily as we would like them to. So those were our focus for this year. So in terms of reading, our desired state, what we're looking to get to is that all students of color and economically disadvantaged students who attend Leo for at least 85% of the school year will be at or above grade level according to reading benchmarks. As with Yankee Ridge, we're finding that our African American and students of color, and obviously our 1/3 population of native Spanish speakers whose first language is not English, tend to struggle more in reading and are further behind. So that's an area we have to continually focus on. No matter how good we get in this area, there will always be room for improvement with those students. So how are we getting there? Okay, as with Yankee Ridge, many of the other schools in that, we've been working really hard to make sure that balanced literacy is implemented with fidelity in every classroom, and that teachers will provide additional literacy instruction to targeted students every single day. So, in other words, those students who are struggling the most, those students who are lowest, are getting a double dose of instruction every single day, whether it's from interventionists or from a classroom teacher. We worked really hard to structure collaboration to provide meaningful discussions at grade level and between the English language classrooms and the dual language classrooms, so that everybody was operating on the same kinds of problems, addressing the same data at their level. It was really difficult last year to find the common collaboration time to have, when I had 4 classes at a grade level, 2 English speaking, 2 dual language classes, to get that collaboration time. So having the fine arts teachers at Leo full time, and all 3 of them, has allowed us to create that collaboration process. And we're working to provide families with frequent, clear, intentional communication of their students' progress, and then to provide activities and instruction for parents to support reading at home. We have the kids for 6 hours a day, okay? The parents have been their primary teachers throughout their lives so far to this point, and that's a resource we cannot, neglect, and that support and instruction needs to continue at home also. So in math, I talked about how mastering the basic reading math facts. The goal is 80% of students at mastery of grade level appropriate math facts. We actually resurrected this goal. It was one of our school improvement goals from several years ago when we were noticing the same thing. Things improve, you turn to other areas to focus. We decided it was important to come back to those. I'm not going to go through what each of the grade levels were. You have those in your packets for that. How we're going to accomplish this is through differentiated instruction and continuous monitoring of student progress, including student self-monitoring. That's a really important component, is that the students, in order to be engaged, have to know where they are, know where they need to go, and can see the progress that they're making. That's the best way to engage them. When they can see success, it builds on each other. We've been doing culturally relevant teaching strategies. Teachers have been using to engage students in learning of the math facts. Teachers have been making it a game. We've been using arts infusion to use music, dance, art to reinforce the learning of these concepts and the math facts. And we're providing parents, again, with information, instruction, and materials to help them at home help support their students. It's easy to say you got to help your kid do their homework at home, but we also need to provide them with the tools to do that, because they look to us as the educational experts. And so that's part of our thing. Some specific action steps we have to promote all of those goals. We really took care this year in terms of our scheduling to prioritize intervention supports when creating classroom schedules so that students could get the additional help, those who are struggling, without interfering with classroom instruction and missing out on the things everyone else was doing. We're engaged in monthly professional development and culturally relevant instruction, which has been going extremely well. We've been doing reading buddies where classrooms pair up, older classrooms pair up with the primary classrooms for a number of years now, and we're just tossing in a little bit of math buddies where for 10 minutes of that time they're working on improving the math fact skills of students. We're working to create and supplement home libraries for students receiving literacy intervention or special education services to reinforce that classroom instruction in the home. One of the things we've been working on, it's part of my school improvement plan, is to clear out the basement at Leal. And thanks to Mr. Abatessa, we've made great strides in that. But we've also found tons of books that were just sitting downstairs that we're getting into the hands of kids. And so we're making sure those happen. We're having quarterly parent-student learning nights to provide materials and instruction to parents and students and to engage and facilitate at-home reinforcement of both literacy and math instruction that's taking place in the school. And we're using intentional data-driven decisions that support our PBIS and SEL initiatives, and that helps us continue to maintain a safe, productive learning environment. We didn't have a behavior goal this year. We had a wonderful year last year in terms of student behavior results with quite a precipitous drop in office referrals. It certainly is not something attributable just to the 1 year. It's something that we have been working on for many, many years, as every year you hear me come and say we spend a lot of time working on these areas. And it does take everyone being committed to teaching the kids the behaviors we expect of them, and then consistently asking them to follow it. And if we have a student from kindergarten, by the time they're in 5th grade, we end up with very few problems because of that. So that's the end of my slide presentation. But again, I want to reiterate that I think the real school improvement plan is the hard work and dedication of the staff. Anything that I ask them, I mean, they'll complain a little and we'll talk through it and all of that, but they know that what they're being asked will help kids, and they are always willing to do what's best for the kids. And I think that's true. You certainly saw it from Yankee Ridge. I was blown away by the things I was hearing that the staff is, and all of that is, is extra. That's not part of the contract, right? What that tells me is that we have really competent people. We also have an extremely competent administration who, I've been here 14 years, and I feel I've gotten the support that's necessary to help me support my staff in order to do the things we need to help and support students. Any questions?
Thank you very much. Question, board members?
Yeah, thank you, Spencer, and thanks for calling up the importance of the hard work of and the talents of our building staff. I couldn't agree more, so thanks for that shout out. Just a couple of specific questions. What does PBIS Gold mean? I know what PBIS is, but
Well,
what's
they
the
have
gold?
recognition levels in
Oh,
PBS. They have bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. We did receive platinum a few years ago, but we don't, in order to receive that status, you have to do tier 3 interventions in a particular way and with a particular number of students. And those tier 3 supports are for the highest upper level of students who are not responding to the tier 1 and tier 2 interventions. And fortunately, we don't have enough students that we need to provide those type of supports to. Also, the particular supports that the PBIS networks looks to, we haven't found that to be very efficient for our situation. And while we end up providing those students with high levels of support and those families with high levels of support, it's not what the network looks for that platinum recognition. So, but we're at gold, and again, you can go to the PBIS network, and they have a map of where it is, and you'll see the number of schools south of I-80 that are at that level are few and far between.
And then the other one, you talked about the importance of collaboration time, which I know is essential, and how the fine arts team helps provide that. I assume that the new PE teachers provide that
Oh, absolutely.
collaboration time too? I mean, another
Absolutely.
option,
So,
opportunity.
at those grade levels where I have 4 classes, I couldn't do it without the PE teacher, the library, and fine arts
Gotcha.
folks in
Cover-
there. So as the buildings get larger, like at Dr. Williams, like Yankee Ridge will grow into, having all of those fine arts, having PE, having library,
Yeah.
allows those larger grade levels to get that common planning time.
Okay, great. And just finally, I don't know if this was part of the culturally relevant instruction goals that the school has, but I was really pleased to see the article in the News Gazette today about your 4th grade teacher, Janet Leroy, and her work with the U of I Campus Honors Program on civil rights, the civil rights movement curriculum that they're sort of teaching around, I guess they're talking more about immigration and race at the college level, and Ms. Leroy's talking about kind of the civil rights movement and Japanese internment during World War II, and they kind of joined forces to talk about what each other had learned. I thought it was an excellent example of kind of partnerships with the community, and I know that goes on at all of our schools, but it was nice to see that written up in good length in today's paper. So
No, in fact, I have the copy to bring to school tomorrow so that I could put it on the Legal Wall of Fame.
That's right,
Which is one of our bulletin boards in there. But, it is, what I liked about the article was the fact that Janet talked about choosing a topic that the students could relate to, the 4th grade student, 10-year-olds, could relate to make the concepts, involved in there much more manageable and understandable for them. And our proximity to the university really benefits us greatly, too.
yeah.
It helps when your husband, too, is with the
That's true.
university.
That's true. Well, thank you very much.
You bet.
Yeah, I have a quick one. I wanted to know, can you come back and tell us, the Math Buddies thing is new this year? You've just started it, or did you start it last year?
No, we're just starting it, trying to incorporate that in. When we were talking about, okay, we have this math goal, there's some pretty standard ways to work on these concepts, you know, like math fact tests regularly, those kinds of things. And so we were brainstorming ideas of, you know, what are some other ways we could work this in? And we decided, well, we're already in, you know, other classes. Let's, you know, use that student learning, peer-on-peer learning, which, as you heard from Yankee Ridge too, you know, the kids really get into that. You know, so we've started experimenting with that, of having them take some of that reading time and working on math facts with that.
I think that's a great idea. I would be really interested to know how it works this year and what your numbers are like this time next year.
Yeah, we'll
Let's hope
see.
it's going up.
We'll see.
But thank you. I also have to, you know, I have, my heart is dear for Leal, but I think that one of the reasons why it's a successful school, from what I've been told by faculty, is that they have administration in the building who is open to their ideas when they want to try new and innovative things for their classrooms. And so for that, I thank you, because I think the teachers are brimming full of great ideas, and it takes someone in your position to say, yeah, run with it, and let's see where it goes to create the successes we've got. So thank you for that. And
Thank you.
I really wish that I'd known more about the basement, because I've heard stories about
Yeah.
the Leal basement, and I'd be interested to know what kind of things you dig out of there, because
You know, I didn't take pictures. I should have taken before and after pictures. But
apparently it was only select few students who ever got to go down
It's
there
true.
for any reason. And
it's true.
tell the
It's
tale.
part of the tour of Secret Leal that I auction off at Fun Fair every year. So, got to keep some secrets. So.
I was going to say, generations of students had classes
Actually,
down there, so.
one thing we did, not in this latest clean out, but in a prior clean out, behind a filing cabinet, we saw some paper that had Don's name on it, and it was from when he was a group leader in the after-school program. So think about that. So
The
that
SCCP and two
that-
classrooms were in the basement when I
Right.
started in the district.
And so that was in there prior to the renovation and the move to the Jewel and renovation, and somehow remained undetected. And then we found it underneath there, so.
For just a second.
Yes.
Ruth Ann had a comment.
Oh, yeah.
Benita, hold on just a second. When I was at Leal, the tunnel was not paved, and we were not supposed to run through it. And there were mounds of dirt on either side and gravel from one end to the other.
See, now you're divulging some of the secrets of the secret tour of Leal.
Yeah.
Because there are still a couple of spaces like that in the
Yep.
basement.
Yeah, quite interesting, quite interesting. Wonderful job, of course.
Thank you.
Any word on how many fish were caught today?
I didn't hear, actually.
Okay.
I went home to walk the dogs first, so I usually try and join them because Mr. McCune does the urban fishing program and took it over from me when I had done it for 5 years before, when it first came to the area, and I turned it over to him. So I try and get out and help him too, because that's the best kind of teaching.
That's right.
Excuse me, you all, I'm hoarse. There are no communications this evening. Policy review, none at this time. Action items are consent items. We're gonna do them as a whole?
Yeah, would you like me to read them?
Yes, could you?
Yep, be happy to. Don't want you to lose your voice completely here. So we have 11.1, which is minutes from September 18th, which was a business meeting, September 23rd, which was a special meeting, September 24th, which was a special meeting, October 2nd, which was a study session. We have the 11.2, which is October bills and checks, the education fund bills for $808,000, Operations and maintenance fund bills for $272,000. Transportation fund bills for $125,000. Working cash bills for $219,000. There was no school facility occupation tax. The tort was $13,317. Life safety levy was zero this time. Payroll was $4,187,000. Adult education was $126,000. We had no interfund loans. There are various personnel items. There is approval of hazardous areas for transportation. That is an annual declaration of hazardous areas in order to continue to receive transportation funding from the state. There's renewal of the MTD contract. There's a resolution authorizing the directing and sale of disposal of personal property in accordance with 105 Illinois Compiled Statutes 5-10-22.8. There's the approval of Cunningham Children's Home Urbana School District Shared Use Agreement. And then there's the approval with the contract with Studio GC for the campus land use study.
Okay.
Are there any items that anyone wishes to pull off as individual for further discussion? If not, I'll let you call for the
Okay.
motion.
Is there a motion to approve?
I move acceptance of the action items.
Second?
Okay, Ruth Ann, this calls for the roll call. Because we
Member
have money
Carter?
involved.
Yes.
Member Hall?
Yes.
Member Patton?
Yes.
Member Fisher votes yes. Vice President Rollins? yea.
Yes. So would any one of you all like to read the action items? Brenda?
Kathleen A. Harvey, Urbana, donated a Reynolds Medalist coronet valued at $250 to the Evelyn Burnett Underwood Music Assistance Program. The following donated to the Urbana High School Academic Booster Club: Teresa Michelson, $300, Carol Spindell, $200, and an anonymous donor, $600. Robin Schwartz, $250. Isaacson Glerum Watcher, LLC, $100, and Airmark, $100. Anonymous donor, $2,466, donated to help support the recent September 27, 2018 Walk as One event. First Student Transportation donated a bus to help families with no transportation between Northwood and Ivanhoe communities. I would like the board to move forward and send thank yous as appropriate.
Okay,
I'll second that.
all right. All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed. Okay, 12.2, Don, you want to read those?
Yeah, 12.2 is a resolution declaring the intention issue $3.2 million in working cash fund bonds, something we do every 3 years or so. Working cash fund bonds of School District 116, Champaign County, Illinois, for the purpose of increasing the working cash fund of said school district and directing that notice of such intention to be published in the manner provided by law. There we go.
All right. We need a motion to approve this resolution. Do we have a motion?
Second.
Okay, Ruth Ann, roll call.
Member Carter?
Yes.
Member Hall?
Yes.
Member Patton?
Yes.
Member Fisher votes yes. Vice President Rollins?
Yes. Okay.
12.3 is the U of I intergovernmental agreement. It's approval of, it's now turned into kind of an every 3 years intergovernmental agreement between the school district and the University of Illinois Board of Trustees. In the past, it used to be called the Joint for Orchard Downs. It is the agreement where the U of I provides us with approximately $100,000 every year for the 3 years of the agreement to offset some of the costs of the fact that we serve approximately 100 students, K-12, from Orchard Downs in an area that is exempt from taxes because it's owned by the university.
Okay, we need a motion to approve that agreement.
I move acceptance of that agreement.
Roll call, Ruth Ann.
Member Carter?
Yes.
Member Hall?
Yes.
Member Patton?
Yes.
Member Fisher votes yes. Vice President Rollins Gay.
Yes. There is a call for a future executive session, which will be October the 21st at 6:30, special meeting, executive session. Don, do you have a superintendent's report?
Yes, I do. And just for the viewing audience, that special executive meeting is for the purpose of evaluation, discipline, or discussion of a specific, I'm trying to remember the wording, a specific employment or employee under personnel. I think I covered that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, 14.0 Superintendent's Report. First, I'll start with the FOIA report. We fulfilled one FOIA this past month, and that was to Lindsay Jones of the News Gazette. The names of all outside vendors referenced in a November 21st, 2017 blog post by Superintendent Don Owen. In the following line, our technology team has been working with 2 outside vendors to move the Skyward system to a cloud-based platform, which will provide security, stability, consistency, and redundancy. Those vendors were Illini Cloud and Presidio. The specific dates when the said outside vendors began working with USD 116, any RFP soliciting the services of said outside vendors, any and all records of dollar amounts paid to said outside vendors for their services, including all invoices and/or vendor receipts concerning any paid services. And just for our viewing audience, I would like to point out that all of our financial receipts and transactions are available on our website. And so if you want to dig deeply into our budgets, feel free. Superintendent's report, just a couple things. The last few days, there's been a number of state-level webinars related to the new school reporting and designation system. The new school designation system is called IBAM, which is the Illinois Balanced Accountability Measures System. And so that will be information that will be coming out soon. I would say that there were many people participating in these webinars over the last 2 days who were slightly disappointed to hear that the Illinois report card and the superintendent login to that, the MyIRC, actually does not have the correct data up yet. And so even though it was supposed to be released tomorrow, they're saying that the data in many of the schools is not accurate based on issues at the Illinois State Board of Education. And so we will be reporting that information to the Board of Education as soon as it becomes accurately available to us from the Illinois State Board of Education. Mr. Landsman and Dr. Anderson mentioned several times today about culturally responsive teaching, and I did want to just put a shout out for that. The equity professional development that we're doing throughout the district this year is based on a book called Culturally Responsive Teaching in the Brain by Zaretta Hammond. It's an outstanding book, and we've had a good start to the school year. Tomorrow, we're meeting with all PD cadre from across the district to kind of do a check-in with everyone and have people talk about challenges as well as successes that they've had, kind of do a self-evaluation of the first couple months of the work with the book, and then kind of set a course for the remainder of the year. If board members are interested, if you Google culturally responsive teaching in the brain, Zaretta Hammond also has a very interesting blog that is very accessible, covers a lot of the topics that we talk about in our equity training, including racial bias, linguistic diversity, cultural responsiveness, and here's my smooth segue, and trauma-informed or trauma-responsive teaching. that's my segue into just a shout out, because one of the people that we've had, that we've been working closely with this year, Ms. Karen Sims, received the Freedom Fund Award from the NAACP. They're having a banquet for that award on Friday, and we are sponsoring a number of tickets for that, and excited to have Karen Sims, who has worked with us on a variety of things over the last decade or so, and probably is one of the most powerful speakers when it comes to how trauma and trauma, especially around issues of race, impact our students and how they approach school. So I would encourage board members, if you have a chance, to read the article in yesterday's paper about Karen Sims. Also, I'd like to give a shout out to Dr. Williams and Leal Elementary Schools. Dr. Williams hosted the Latin American Heritage Month celebration for the dual language programs last Friday. It was a celebration of both student, community, and family work around issues in the Latino community. It was a wonderful program, and quite a nice night to end the week on. And then also I'd like to give a big thank you to everyone in the community who has been coming out to our strategic plan action team meetings. We do have a number of them happening this week, and I will put in a special plug for the action team that focuses on management of the district. That's the one where we have the fewest number of community members and family members, and so we'll be putting out a special call for that out widely via email later this week. But we've had great attendance at those, and we appreciate everyone's help and support. I would also like to give a big thank you to the moderators of the Facebook advocacy group. Mr. Scott Dowds was here last week and talked about the fact that they're using that advocacy group Facebook page to recruit volunteers and mentors for the district. Tom Howley, who is our director of the C1-to-1 mentoring program and coordinates our volunteers for the district, has said that there have been a number of new volunteers coming in as a result of the work of that Facebook advocacy group. So we thank them for that. And then finally, also around the issues of engagement, and I'm sorry that I don't have this right in front of me, but we're partnering with Salt and Light next Sunday afternoon, and I don't have the exact time, for a trunk or treat event where kind of a safe and contained area for kids to do some trick-or-treating and celebration of Halloween in October. 4 to 6 p.m. on the 28th. Sunday the 28th, 4 to 6 p.m. And so...
The 28th?
28th, not the 21st, sorry. I was a week ahead in my notes. And that's it for me.
Okay, board reports?
I just was going to send a little reminder to anybody who's interested that tomorrow night at the high school is the Academic Monogram Awards, which is when students, high-achieving students, get to receive a letter, just like the sports kids do for their academic achievements, and a lot of the students get to nominate a teacher whom has had an impact on their learning. It could be someone in the high school or someone from any year of their education here. And they give speeches and they give out awards, and it's always really, really nice to see all the kids, gussied up and proud of themselves. So I'm going because, I have students at the school, but it's also really fun for anybody who wants to go
I love
to
it.
So to let Ms. Davis, I think it is, who's the principal's administrative assistant, know if you plan on going.
Okay.
I would just like to say I will not be at the delegate assembly this year. So if anyone is interested in being a delegate this year, I will be out of state, so.
And that happens at the joint annual conference in November,
Yes.
correct?
Yeah, it's coming up very soon.
And I made a request for someone to do it. named Ann Hall.
Yeah, I thought, good, yeah, I thought so. I
She
thought-
made me an offer I couldn't really refuse.
Okay. So we support Ann in this new role.
Yeah, we sure are.
Yeah,
And I will be there
I'm happy
for
to do
you.
it. Thank you.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
We'll all be going, but I'll be there
I'll
for you.
be happy to see
Yeah.
it and
Okay.
firsthand.
So thank you, Ann, for accepting. We're gonna miss you, Brenda. So any more? Okay,
I think I kind of do. I'm going to take the initiative to remind the public that we have 3 school board seats that will be up for election next spring. Anyone who is interested needs to drop by the Champaign County Clerk's office and pick up an election packet. And the sub-districts that will be open, we have 3 this time. Sub-district number 2, number 4, and number 6. The opening day for starting to circulate the petitions was September 18th. And then correct petitions need to be handed in within December 10th to the 17th. And that is for the spring election. They are doing that early before the elections now. And I think I've covered everything.
Yeah, and just for anyone else, you can visit the Champaign County Clerk's website to download all of the packet of information. But we also have information at our board meetings too, including a map of the sub-districts. Thank you for that reminder.
Thank you.
so come on out.
Yeah. Thank you again.
Okay. So I'm called for adjournment.
I'm- Second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Okay, this meeting is adjourned.